Good morning and welcome to your TVC headlines here in Clarence Rockland. It's Friday the 4th of December and I'm your host Thomas Stockting, bringing you your latest regional update. In your headlines this week, COVID-19 latest in Ontario and Prescott Russell, enforcement and educational officers deployed in the region, vaccine priority in Canada, new campaign launched by Interlude House, volunteer firefighters needed in Clarence Rockland, new team but same mission at Tucker House. Are your passwords strong enough? We look into that. And we look at addiction and substance abuse in Eastern Ontario. The upward trend of positive COVID-19 cases has started to decrease in the Prescott Russell region. Cases had spiked over the last 10 days, predominantly due to the continuing outbreak in the residence Prescott Russell, as well as the cases that caused the Pavilion Saint-Euphemie at the École Élémentaire Catholique de Castelman to close. But the region is starting to see a downward trend once again. There was further good news as the outbreak at the Russell Meadows retirement home has been declared as over. In Prescott Russell, there remain 68 active cases, the bulk of which are still in Hawkesbury with 22, and Clarence Rockland is down to the single digits with 9 active cases. There is an increase in numbers following the outbreak in Castleman with 13 active cases there, bringing the total number of people infected since the start of the pandemic in the Prescott Russell region to 573. Following the release of the festive period COVID guidelines, Chief Medical Officer of the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, the Dr. Paul Roumeliotis, was asked about the confusion surrounding what people are and are not allowed to do when socializing this Christmas.
And we're saying that is because I believe that while most people will abide by it, some people will not, and I'd rather have safe guidance documents. That's the reason. I'm struggling with that as well. Either our guidance, even our guidance documents, I struggled with it, saying, okay, we're just going to give this option, but people will ignore it. I know some people may ignore it, so at least we'll give them some safe options. That's the rationale. It's not meant to be a double message. It's meant to at least do like a harm reduction if we can't prevent.
A provincial, educational and enforcement campaign is coming to the Eastern Ontario Health Unit region in an attempt to help businesses appropriately combat the virus in the workplace. But as we come into the 9th month of this pandemic, has it come too late?
I think it's timely because right now we don't want people to put their guard down. We've been getting most of the things that we've been seeing, Natalia, really have to do with the workplace related. So we just want to make sure that the enforcement officers are there. They're also education officers as well. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go and ticket people. They're just going to make sure that the workplaces have all the have them in place. We can't go and visit all of them. We respond by complaint, and we do know that some of the cases start. We have them, as I mentioned, in the workplaces. So this is just an added help to us to ensure that we continue to keep our numbers down, because we're seeing that that's kind of a blind spot for us, where workplaces sometimes people go in with staff can go in, they don't screen properly, or they're lax a bit in the lunchroom and those type of things. So we just want to make sure that make sure that people have that still heightened awareness, despite of the fact that our numbers are going down, because they could easily turn around. So that's the purpose of that, and that's why we welcome it, and we've been working with them. And that's not to say that we haven't been doing those things locally, but it's a big territory, so we welcome the extra help as well.
With potential vaccines around the corner, a lot of talk is concentrated on who is likely to receive them first. Canada's National Advisory Committee on Vaccines has recommended that those at high risk of severe illness and death from COVID-19, workers essential to society, as well as those in roles that could transmit the virus to these two groups, should come first. Vaccines could start to become available as early as Christmas, and we will keep you updated with the latest for the Prescott Russell region in the coming weeks. Now, as of the 25th of November, marked the start of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The Prescott Russell Interlude House launched a new service to help tackling this problem in our area. Last year in Ontario, a woman or child was killed every 11 days by a man that they knew. And locally, 37 women and 25 children were given shelter at the Prescott Russell Interlude House in 2019 as they sought to escape violence of their own. In a press conference held last week, Interlude House announced the launch of a new, secure text and online chat platform dedicated to women victims of violence and abuse.
For many women who are in close quarters with an abusive partner, using text or online chat can be more discreet than a traditional phone call. That's why Pas bien chez moi, Prescott Russell, is so important and an added tool to help women and their children access help when needed. United Way has been working with dozens of partners across the East Ontario footprint at our COVID-19 community response table to identify where the needs are greatest in our communities. And how can we rally together to make the greatest impact for people in need? Women facing violence and their children have been a priority for United Way since the beginning of the pandemic. Our region-wide philanthropy group, for example, Women United, Elles s'entraident, invested in women's shelters early on in the pandemic, helping some 250 women and their children living in shelters across the communities of Prescott Russell, Ottawa, as well as Lanark and Renfrew counties. When we heard that calls to crisis lines dropped in the early days of the pandemic, United Way recognized the need to innovate and reach women and their children where they were stuck in unsafe homes with reduced access to traditional communications. This partnership with Maison Interlude House will help us to address this gap. I am proud to be here today on behalf of United Way East Ontario for the launch of Pas bien chez moi, Prescott Russell. This program will help ensure women in crisis have a place to turn. Thank you to Maison Interlude House and all of their partners for launching this essential service to keep women in Prescott Russell safe.
Unsafe at Home Prescott Russell is a secure text and online chat service for women who may be living violence and abuse at home during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our support workers provide emotional support, information, resources, and referrals. We can help you talk about how you're feeling, create a safety plan to reduce the risk of harm, and get the services you need for support. Our text and online chat services are available 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Your conversations with our team are confidential and secure. You can chat online with us or text us. We are here for you. Our trained team will give you support, information, resources, and safety planning ideas. There are 2 ways to reach us. You can chat online. This is the safest way to talk to us. You'll need a device with Wi-Fi or an internet connection to use the chat service. Click the Chat Online Now button if you need us. A chat window will open and we will connect you to a trained support worker. You can end the conversation at any time. Once it's done, your chat history will be erased. Text us if you need support. We will connect you to a trained support worker. You do not need a data plan, internet connection, or an app to use Unsafe at Home Prescott Russell on your cell phone. For your safety, be sure to delete your text history once you've done texting with us. When you connect with us, the first few messages you receive from us will be automated. These will give you more information about the service and our confidentiality policy.
According to the EOHU, 18.6%, or a fifth of the Eastern Ontario population, are suffering from addiction and substance abuse, whether it be illegal drugs, prescription medications, or even the most widely consumed substances such as alcohol and tobacco. Last week was Addiction Awareness Week, and I caught up with Nicholas Hote from the EOHU to discuss some of the ways you can help out a friend or loved one in their time of need.
First and foremost, I really feel for everybody involved. That's truly important. I think one of the best things that people can do, especially if they're not familiar with substance use, is really learn about substance use disorders, get to know the signs and symptoms of substance use and the services that are available to help that friend, help that family member when they are ready. They really need to know that addiction is not a choice. It's a mental health disease. And that's important to know because oftentimes we think that it should just be easy. They should just quit. Well, it's not that easy for most people. Listen to the person, that's key. Do your best not to be judgmental. And I know that can be hard, especially during difficult situations. Be there for them, but remember, you can't do it for them. I think, again, now more than ever, especially during the pandemic, it's important to reach out to people, to check in on them. We're all isolated a bit more. It's important to have that lifeline. Another quick tip is don't enable the behavior. Provide them with opportunities to get out of the predicament all the time. May sound like the best response because you feel like you're truly being helpful, but they need to go through things themselves. They really need to get through them in order to really learn from them and hopefully get on the right path. Hopefully you can influence them, but don't try to control them. Be supportive, be there when they need to talk. As hard as it may sound too, set boundaries, stick to them. That's especially difficult if you're a parent and you see your child going down the wrong path. Have realistic expectations. Battling a substance use disorder will have its ups and downs. It's inevitable. Be ready for setbacks. At times, the individual maybe needs to focus more on harm reduction rather than abstinence, just based on where they are with their substance use. One thing that we're constantly hearing as we're following up with people who have substance use disorders is it's important to be optimistic. They want to know that there's hope, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Yourself, you can set an example by living a healthy and active lifestyle, and by not using drugs and alcohol recreationally as well. That's usually a good scenario for those people. And most importantly, this one we often forget, take care of yourself. You may need support and counseling yourself. You're going through something by helping people out. Connect with peers that are going through the same thing. They may be able to help you. And stay in touch with your personal joys that you have in your life. Don't lose those because it's very easy to go down a dangerous path as well for yourself. So take care of yourself. I think that's key.
That's fantastic, Nicholas. Talking about there how it's so much about self-care as well, even when you're helping someone, and it's truly about compassion and accepting the fact that, like many things in life, there's going to be ups and downs. You mentioned it a little bit earlier as well, but just before I let you go, what are some of the services available for those that are dealing with addiction here in Eastern Ontario?
We've got some great services available to the community. The Help Unit itself actually doesn't do much treatment when it comes to addiction. That's up to our partners to do that, and they do a great job. There's the Hawkesbury General Hospital, through their Mental Health and Addiction Center, offers quite a few services throughout Prescott Russell, thanks to all their satellite offices and virtual services. Cornwall Community Hospital offers a withdrawal management program and quite a few services as well through their Addiction and Mental Health Center. And then in Cornwall as well, we're kind of blessed to have Recovery Care and Change Healthcare that offer different services than the hospital. So there's a lot of options for people, and that's really key, because there's no perfect way, cookie cutter model, if you will, of getting down the path towards sobriety. The nice thing is that these services are covered by the province as well, so they're no cost. And if ever you're looking for trying to figure out to navigate the system, because there's a lot of services, quick way to find that is through 211. So just by calling 211, they also have online options. And throughout Ontario as well, there's an association called Connects Ontario. So they can be reached at 1-866-531-2600, and they also have online options as well, so that you can identify all the services related to substance use disorders in your region.
There are many services available across the Eastern Ontario region for anyone seeking a path towards sobriety. You can find the right one for you by simply calling 211. Now, sustainability was one of the most widely discussed topics before COVID-19 took over all of our lives earlier this year. In Clarence Rockland, Tucker House has made it their mission to educate and encourage the next generations to help move towards sustainable living since 2005. The non-for-profit has seen various changes recently and are preparing to develop new programs for the community to get involved in the new year. However, before these programs get underway, the staff at Tucker House are getting into the Christmas spirit, with events being hosted for the very first time. We caught up with sustainability interns Lorena Navarez and Francis Fife about the upcoming virtual festive concert.
For sure. Jazzy Christmas is an event we're hosting here at Tucker House on December 20th at 8 p.m. And we're going to have a jazz band in to perform some festive holiday music, and that's going to be live streamed from our Facebook channel, so people can tune in and enjoy the music. And at the same time that that's going on, we're going to be hosting a fundraiser for some of the events and programming we're running later in the year. So it's really to kind of raise awareness about the stuff going on and also give back to the community and show them what we have to offer too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the event is hosting a jazz trio based out of Ottawa. They're friends of Tucker House. Their names are Dennis Lim Serson. He's playing the keys. There is Chris Pond, who is on the bass. And then we have Jose Garcia, who is on the drums. And so they're going to be playing all our Christmas favorites and classics. And because it's a live streamed event, we're hoping that people will interact, request the music they want to hear, so the band can play for them what they would like.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Lorena, if I can direct this one to yourself, what is like the main goal of Jazzy Christmas? And obviously we've got fundraisers and other things going on, but what are you hoping to achieve with it?
Well, first and foremost, we want to provide the community with something to get excited about in the Christmas season. And obviously, because of COVID, there are restraints on what we can do. So the purpose is to provide a fun Christmas event that is accessible to everyone online, and we don't have to put a restraint on the numbers of people who can arrive. And furthermore, we're fundraising because we are always developing new programming, and in particular in 2021, we are opening the Grow Green Club, which will be a club for youth that will teach them about growing food and teach them about the environment along the way.
And we'll be bringing you more on beneficial community projects such as these over the next couple of months. Medical attention, accidents and fires. All of these have a common denominator. They're all responded to by your local fire department. The City of Clarence-Rockland announced that they're looking for new volunteer firefighters. And we caught up with the Director of Emergency Services, Pierre Voisine, who started his career as a volunteer himself over 2 decades ago. Fantastic. Thank you very much for being with us today, Pierre. We're here to talk about the open position for volunteer firefighters, those that you're looking to fill at the moment. Can you tell us a little bit more about the role of a volunteer firefighter?
Absolutely. Well, initially the role will be to get trained and knowledgeable in doing the work, but essentially we're looking for people to respond to a multitude of different types of emergencies, whether that be medical calls, car accidents, or fires, of course.
And what, and what kind of people are you looking to hire here? Sorry, who would you encourage?
There's a number of different abilities that we're looking for. Partly the physical aspect is quite demanding, so there's a physical test as part of our recruitment. But what I keep telling people is essentially we're looking for people with big hearts, and we'll give them the knowledge.
Fantastic. And why would you encourage people to come and apply to do this role?
Well, number one, it's extremely important for the community to be able to have this group of people responding to a multitude of different types of incidents, but it's also good for the soul to be able that you're there and you're essentially the last line of defense for people that are in need. So it's good for people to be able to live that a little bit too.
And to continue on that slightly, why do you think it's so important to have volunteer firefighters in a community?
Again, I speak about the last line of defense. This is it, right? When people are in need, we're the people that respond to them in those times. And 80% of Canadian fire services are built on volunteers, so it's absolutely essential that we have this group of people.
And for those thinking of applying, but they maybe work somewhere else as well, how much time does it normally take out of their schedule?
It can be quite demanding, especially initially when you get all trained up. Then it's really dependent on the number of calls, and it fluctuates around the year. Again, it's still worth it. There's still a lot of people that want to do it, so we'll gladly take them.
And how competitive is it? How many roles are you looking to fill here?
We'll have a number of spots because we'll be keeping the list open for a year or two. So there should be enough room for those interested.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for being with us today, Pierre, and hopefully we can catch up with you after you've taken on a couple to see how their training's going.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And finally, a new study released in November showed that basic passwords such as 123456 are still amongst some of the most popular chosen. In a study by NordPass, which analysed over 275 million passwords, almost 153 million were described as easy to crack. Computer softwares used by hackers, available to be purchased on the dark web, can get access into these accounts in a matter of seconds. With those over 60 shown to be most at risk, an age group that makes up almost half of the Clarence-Rockland demographic, we spoke to the city's Chief Information Officer, Mike Cousino, about how you can better protect your accounts.
Well, people tend to use words that are associated with them, which they should definitely try to avoid using, like the name of one of their children or their pet with a date of birth combination. Those things can be looked up on Facebook very often, or any other social media, and then someone can feed that into a computer to try to come up with possibilities for passwords and to exploit the account. Harder passwords are phrases, and phrases as simple as "I like cats," something as simple as that. Right off the bat, if no other changes is made to the password, then that phrase becomes very, very difficult, because it is not mathematically assigned to the person. So it is something that is just "I like cats." So when you remove all the spaces in there right off the bat, it makes it harder. Then just flip some lowercase letters to uppercase letters, and then switch some letters to numbers. An A can be very, very easily replaced with the ampersand that we use in an email. An O can become a 0, an I can become an exclamation point or a 1. You make a few changes like that, and you have a very, very strong password, which makes it almost impossible. I would never say always completely impossible, but really, really very difficult for somebody to hack into.
And when we have these more complicated passwords, they can often be a little bit harder to remember. And we have so many different accounts online these days in the 21st century as it is. Your online banking, you have Facebook, you have online shopping accounts. Is it important to have different passwords across all of these different accounts? And if so, why?
Well, definitely, if the more passwords you have, the more different passwords you have, the harder it is for somebody to exploit an account. If you have, if it's a difficult password, you can reuse it in certain accounts, but to really try to make them different everywhere, just so that if somebody is able to get your Facebook account and you're using the same account password for your banking account, that could be a problem. So obviously let's not make it too easy for them to do. So using different passwords is definitely the way to go. Harder to remember for sure, but phrases tend to be a little bit easier to remember than just, oh, what did I use last? Did I add a number? Did I add the number 3? So like the phrase "I like cats" just tends to be a little bit easier to remember.
Absolutely. Hopefully you're not giving us too much of an insight into your own passwords.
No,
Mike.
I always use the same example, one that I've never used before.
And Mike, before I let you go, there is just one other element to this, which is how the frequency of changing passwords. How often would you recommend that people change their passwords?
As frequently as possible. I know it can be difficult, can be a lot to manage. I say for online banking and any account that can be associated with your credit card, I would say definitely to try to do it as at a minimum every 3 months, monthly as possible. And then for other less critical ones, at a minimum once a year. But again, the more often we change them, just the harder it gets for somebody to have access to our accounts.
The City of Clarence-Rockland is looking into delivering free virtual cybersecurity self-defense sessions to the local residents in 2021. We'll be bringing you more information on this through our social media channels in the coming weeks. And that's it for this week's edition of TVC Headlines. If you would like to become a volunteer reporter here at TVC 22, or you may have a story you want told, then get in touch with us. You can reach me by email at nouvelle@tvc22.ca or by phone at 613-446-6037, extension number 4, or of course, find us on any of our social media channels, and we'll make sure to get back to you as quickly as possible. Have a lovely weekend, Clarence Rockland, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.